Bryan was sliding into DMs and making red flag posts as a teenager? Why am I not shocked? But let's get into it. All right. I'm Elise Bradley. That was awful. I'm Elise Bradley, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about something that you may have already heard that came out on Bryan Kohberger and him sliding into DMs. But you're going to have to stick around to the end because I did find some, I think, important information about posts he made as a teenager. And I don't know if anybody else has said this, but I mean, red flag, red flag, red flag. We're going to talk about the recent court appearance, but first of all, I'm going to have to say, if you're liking this content, please do all the things that they say to do, like, subscribe, comment below, share, hit the bell to get notified every time I make a new video, and please be kind in the comments. Let's get into it. Okay, Bryan Kohberger did slide into some DMs. It recently was discovered because a law enforcement officer provided information to people that Bryan Kohberger had actually slid into one of the roommates' DMs. I am not positive which roommate that was, so I'm not going to sit here and say whom I consider it to be because I don't want to speculate. My heart says Kaylee. What do you think, though? Who do you think it was? But it brings me back to the beginning when I first read about this case and started doing some digging. I was trying to gather how he could have possibly met these girls and why the cops kept saying at first this is a targeted attack. And then now hearing and reading up that he followed just Xana, Madison, and Kaylee on Instagram before his account was deleted, kind of brings me back to my initial thought that with students attending Washington State University going into Moscow often because they said the food, the nightlife, and the shopping was much better, maybe he located this awesome vegan restaurant because it was the #1 vegan restaurant in Moscow where Madison and Xana worked. It was called Matt Greek. Maybe he went in there multiple times. And even in a time when Kaylee was visiting Maddie, since they were best friends, and Xana, because that was her roommate, he could have potentially ran into those three girls there. In my mind, that makes much more sense since Xana was underage. I'm just trying to piece together maybe how he ran into them in the first place. Maybe why he even followed them. But when I say all of this, it makes more sense too when they say targeted, because if you all did the virtual tour of the home, you realize he would have passed by DM's room, the female roommate that actually encountered him before he exited after the murders. You would have noticed that he would have had to pass by her room a total of 3 times. And why he avoided her room only makes sense to me if he was focused on Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee, because he had to pass by her room to go upstairs to get to Kaylee and Maddie. Then he had to pass down the stairs, past DM's room to get to Xana. And then to leave, he had to pass by DM's room as well. Obviously, we don't know any of this to be for sure. This is all opinion-based and speculation. But knowing that now he followed only them 3, it's all just coming together in my mind. I don't know. What do you think? I think, though, when he went to DM this young woman and she didn't respond, it could have possibly set off some type of trigger, because when he reached out to this individual, he said something on the lines like, "Hey, how are you doing?" But he said it multiple times and he got no response. So not getting a response from somebody, if you don't already know this, was rejected a lot in high school and actually bullied often by females. in high school. So he already had a bad taste in his mouth about being rejected multiple times. And even at a brewery or a pub that he used to go to in Pennsylvania, he came off very creepy to a lot of the female workers that worked there. They didn't even really want to serve him. They had him listed as somebody in the computer system or like a note, or they spoke to each other individually and was like, okay, if this guy walks in, I don't really feel comfortable serving him. So he has had a history of being rejected by females and not getting a response by this individual, probably just piled on to his insecurities, him getting angry, feeling less than, and pushed him even further to wanting to get back at girls. But what he has to keep in mind, which is maybe something you didn't keep in mind, I mean, when we receive DMs on Instagram, they do go into sometimes a separate folder where we cannot locate them immediately. Or maybe these girls did not check their messages that often. I mean, looking back at their Instagram posts, they didn't seem like they lived on social media. They weren't posting every month. They were inconsistent posters. From my perspective, if they did see it, just to be like, I don't know this person, I'm probably just not going to respond at all. Which is what I would have done, because if I don't know somebody, I'm not just going to go out of my way to respond like, hey, how are you doing? Like, what's up? Like, I don't know you. So like, What has been said so far, first of all, like, why wasn't this in the probable cause affidavit? It could have been because the investigators did not know that this had happened, or B, they didn't need to put that in the probable cause affidavit because they didn't need that information at the time to have him be arrested. And it's going to be a continuous ongoing investigation. There's going to be more and more interviews that will be taking place, more and more information that will be compiled together to get ready for this preliminary hearing. Hopefully we all know that he waived his right to a speedy trial. I personally feel like he waived his right to a speedy trial because he needs to gather information, gather his side of the story, how he's going to go about defending himself against everything in this probable cause affidavit. I do not think he was prepared for the amount of evidence that they had against him. I personally feel he was shocked. I mean, if anybody paid attention to when he got expedited from Pennsylvania to Idaho and appeared in court the very first time, he actually looks over at the woman that is going to defend him in this case, and he greets her, he smiles, he seems confident that he is going to be exonerated and he's not going to be found guilty. But when he went back into court on January 12th and sat down before he decided to waive his right to a speedy trial, he didn't even look at her. He didn't even look over at her, nothing. He didn't smile. He just sat there and he waited for the judge to ask him questions. He responded to these questions with short answers. And now we know that we're in the phase of waiting for the preliminary hearing, which will be held at 9 a.m. on June 26th. It will last 4 to 5 days. A preliminary hearing involves a hearing to determine if the person being charged with the felony should be tried for this crime based on the presentation of evidence that he committed the crime. Gosh, I couldn't get out that definition at all. At this moment, Bryan Kohberger has not entered a plea, and we do not know for sure if they're going to go for the death penalty or not. But from what I've gathered, I think they are going for the death penalty. All right, to close the video. So I was reading up on Bryan like I do daily, which is just really sad. They found some disturbing posts that Bryan made when he was a teenager. I don't know what site he made these posts on, but these posts really give you an insight into Bryan Kohberger's mind. So let's just talk about what he said. He talked about depersonalization, depression, thoughts of suicide, anxiety, poor self-image, and no emotion. He stated in some of these posts that I do not have a picture of that he felt no emotion when he hugged his parents. And that is extremely disturbing. And it honestly makes a lot of sense when you think about somebody that is able to commit such a heinous crime. There's no way that they could have a ton of empathy or feel a lot of emotions. I feel that nobody that has any type of emotional attachment to human life would ever take a human life the way that he did. And to do it 4 times in a clear state of mind, which I'm assuming he was in, is absolutely horrendous. His post also goes on to say this. He stated that it is ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply demons in my head mocking me. Like, what? These are scary. And there is going to be more and more information that comes out about Bryan. People are going to be digging and digging up his background. I think it's going to be so hard to find jury members. I mean, I personally would, if I was asked to be a jury member, I know that they're going to ask these jury members specific questions because I don't want them to be biased of the entire case. But if they brought me in, say I got called up and I got called in to be a part of this case, the first thing they're going to do is ask these jury members, do they have any bias? I would not be able to become a jury member because I do feel like I have a bias. I do personally feel like Bryan is the person that did this. And I think it is going to be hard to find jury members that don't know about this case. If he wants any type of fair trial, which we're all supposed to deserve here in the United States, is a fair trial, you're going to have to find the right people to do that. And as his public defender, Ann Taylor, she's going to have her work cut out for her. But I'm going to jump off of here. I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed day. And I will see you on the next video. Stay safe, stay alert, and be kind. Love you guys. Bye.